In this video, we're going to continue with our example of a Five Guys interface made with Python and Flask and WT forms. And previously we had these radio buttons allowing us to choose what kind of burger, hamburger, cheeseburger, how do we want it cooked, whether or not we wanted fries. And now we're going to, and then we added a multiple select field. And then, so the toppings were then a select that you could choose more than one thing, a multi-select or a multiple select. But now in this version, we've turned that multi-select into a set of checkboxes. So that is the goal here. In addition to the app, which is going to control the routing, we have a form, another Python file that is going to control the form, uses WTF. We have two HTML files. This one should be an HTML file. And one for the form and one for the handler. They're both in templates. And then the both of those HTML forms use a template and a shared style. There's some commands to run it from the terminal. I use the PowerShell versions. I've already sort of started this. And here's what it looks like. And the new part are these toppings, which we had before, but they were a multi-select. Now they are a set of checkboxes. And again, I can choose. If I don't choose a burger, it's going to yell at me, so I'll choose a cheeseburger. If I don't choose a cook level, it'll yell at me medium well. If I don't choose whether or not I want fries, it'll yell at me. I'll say no. For the toppings, I can not have any, or I can choose all five, or 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any number of these things are allowed. Mayonnaise and onions. That sounds terrible, actually. Okay. So that's what we want to see. So this is the routes, and there's nothing really different in terms of the routes. So there is various imports, the secret key to work with the token, the default route redirected to the form, this valid on submit question, and tells me whether to go to the handler or to the form. So that's all the same as it was before. Now over here on the WTF, this part has done some changing. We're bringing in Flask form, which we will extend, the submit field, the radio field, the select multiple field. That all we had before, and the input required we had before. So the new thing here to turn the multi-select into the checkbox is this widgets thing. So we're add to our list of imports widgets, and then we're going to write our own little class here. We're going to take, and this is sort of where I sort of got this idea. Not idea, sort of, it's not just an idea, sort of the whole thing sort of taken from here. MultipleSelectField is a class that we're writing that sort of extends this select multiple field. And so the sort of all the behind the scenes mechanism is sort of the same. We're allowing the user to choose more than one thing. We're passing that more than one thing. We're passing it as a list. Then we're going to have to manage the list so that these two things are related, then they can be thought of one as the extension of the other, sort of makes sense here. And so widgets is a whole general class of things that a user might interact with. Then we're specifically looking at a sort of a list widget, something, things, and there are lists of multiple things of, and then the options are checkboxes. So this is, so it was the checkbox part was not an import, widgets was, but then we use the widget to turn our multi-select into something that's rendered as checkboxes. Okay, so here's the actual form. The burger was a radio field we had before. The level was a radio field we had before. The toppings is now a multi-checkbox field. Multi-checkbox field was this class we defined here on line 8, which extending the select multiple field, which we imported. And then we used our widget import to sort of convert this, the rendering of this, into checkboxes. So here we are, the multi-checks field. We have the label, we have the choices. The choices, as they've always been so far, is a list of tuples, and there's what we pass behind the scenes, some kind of value, and what the user sees. In the case of the toppings, I've made them the same. We've seen they can be the same, they can be different, it doesn't matter. This is this multi-checkbox field is a list, and it's going to be rendered as an unordered list, and therefore the natural styling will by default have bullets. But I had this class of the no_bullets class because I didn't like the bullets, and there were two ways to do that. There was a Jinja way to apply the style, and there was a WT-Forms way to apply the style, and I'm using here the WT-Forms, the render_KW equals, and then this dictionary and this key value pair, and I made the class the no bullets class. So that is the toppings, and then the fries was a radio field and the submit button. Let's have a peek at the form. The form doesn't really do much because all the work of the form is in the WTF. So we have this CSRF_token, we have the burger, its label, and the form. The error messages, I've written some error messages in WT Forms, but they are really sort of overruled by the browser's error messages. So these don't really get seen. Here are the cooking levels. Here's the topping, and that really hasn't changed. What's here on the form hasn't changed. It's just the way what the widget is changing, but the way you sort of invoke the widget is not changing. And here is the fries and the submit button. And then the handler is also not much different. So it's mostly just about the widget. But let's just sort of confirm that. Here is the order, the handler. I take the burger, split it up, get the name of the burger and the price, and do some stuff there, get the cooking level. The toppings, as they were before, are a list, so we're using getlist. So that's one of the big differences between when you're choosing, when you have a select or a radio field, then you get sort of a single thing. When you either have a multiple select, a multi-select, or this list of checkboxes, then you get a list. And so we work with this get list. So it's a result get list toppings. We're looping over that. I'm showing you the toppings. And then the fries and the possibility of adding the price of the fries on to the burger. So mostly it didn't change. The new part was all pretty much the WT forms, extending the multi-select field. So we brought in the new import was widget. Then we did this class extending thing and then brought that in. So that was the big difference. Not much else changed. And so the big change in the way it looked, I added to the style. Just in this, I added in the end of the styling that if there was a checkbox, an input of the checkbox type, and it's checked, and then it has an adjacent label to it, then style that to sort of show me stylistically what the user has chosen, in addition to the checkbox being checked, sort of a bigger visual clue, if you will. And let's just have a peek at the page source. And here are the toppings. The list part of it turned it into an unordered list. We gave it the no bullets class, so we're not seeing bullets. It's given the ID of toppings. Then there's a bunch of list items, and then there's an input again for the toppings, and it's a checkbox, and it's got a value of ketchup, and then there's a label for it, which also says ketchup. So the label is what you see, the value is what you pass. In this particular case, we made them the same thing, but again, they don't have to be. So that's what I wanted to show you. Just turn that multi-select into a checkbox list. I don't like multi-selects myself, so I prefer the checkbox list, but it sort of depends on how long the list is, because checkbox lists can take up a fair amount of real estate on your page. But I think the checkbox is sort of more intuitive and easier for the user to work with. So that's what I wanted to show you in this one. Thanks for your attention.